Hi, I'm Gunnery Sergeant Arlie Ermey. On November 11th, all over this nation, people celebrate Veterans Day with parades, barbecues, maybe even a sale down at the mall. Americans have been observing November 11th for nearly a century now, so long that some of us have actually lost sight of exactly who a veteran is and why we honor them.
A veteran is a person who serves in the United States Army, or Navy, or Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard.
Everybody having fun?
We play at our shows for veterans. They're serving for our beliefs and our rights, and that's amazing stuff.
To me, a veteran is someone who has served our country as a patriot and as a privilege, not just a job. It's a person with character.
A veteran is anyone who served their country. It doesn't have to be during time of war. It's those people who have given a portion of their life in service to our country so that we can have the freedoms we have.
Freedom lets you decide who you are. Without freedom, you're not much of an individual.
It is precisely because our nation stands for freedom that in America, all dreams are possible.
Freedom isn't free. Someone's got to pay the price. Someone's got to protect the freedoms that we have.
Throughout American history, whenever this nation has been threatened, brave servicemen and women have always been willing to step forward. Most recruits begin their active duty while they are young, many still in their teens. In World War I, also known as the Great War, fought in Europe at the beginning of the 20th century, America and her allies defeated the forces of the German Empire. On the morning of November 11, 1918, armistice was declared, fighting stopped, and the guns fell silent. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, World War I came to an end. The following year, President Woodrow Wilson declared November 11th Armistice Day, a day to honor the veterans of the Great War who had sacrificed themselves in defense of their country. A special tomb for an unknown veteran of World War I was dedicated 2 years later at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. The unknown veteran was buried as a symbol of all the soldiers who had sacrificed their lives so that others could live. Eventually, 27 different states made November the 11th a legal holiday, but it wasn't until 1938 that the United States Congress finally made Armistice Day a national holiday. But then the following year, in 1939, Germany invaded Poland to ignite another war. This time, the fighting was not confined to Europe. It spread across the entire globe. World War II made the First World War look small by comparison. When after 6.5 years the fighting was over and all the dead were counted and buried, Americans realized that Armistice Day needed to be expanded to honor the veterans of all wars, and not just those who died. There already was a holiday for that, Memorial Day. Veterans Day would be a day set aside for honoring all the men and women who had served their country in the armed services, living or dead, whether in combat or in a supporting role. Finally, in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who as a general had led the Allied forces to victory in World War II, officially proclaimed November the 11th as Veterans Day. Veterans are proud to have sacrificed a portion of their lives in service of their country, and many of them have found that they've been richly repaid in the form of life experiences that they would never have received otherwise.
Everybody thinks that when you serve in the military, all you do is carry a gun and run through the bushes with your M16. It's a lot more than that. When they test you, they decide after that testing what you're going to be good at. In my case, they decided to be good at computers.
I was a sonar technician in the service, which meant that I looked for submarines. I hunted submarines and was in charge of what's called underwater fire control, which is torpedoes.
I was sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky at 17 years old. I was jumping out of airplanes.
When I first left after graduation, I was a bugler, and I spent 2 years aboard the USS Tennessee, the battleship Tennessee.
I decided to get into the Army because I wanted to fly. So I decided that after I checked out how much flying lessons cost, that if I could get Uncle Sam to pay the bill to teach me to fly, that would be the way to do it.
I was sent to Lakehurst to be a parachute rigger, and I didn't even know what a parachute was. I'd never heard the word before.
I was a nurse in the Navy, Air Force, and Army.
I got this top secret job, which they offered me, which was really interesting because I had no idea what really a top secret job was, and because it was top secret, you couldn't ask anybody.
Serving my country just made me so proud. It made my parents proud. It just gave me like a whole new look at myself, my life, everything. It was hard and tough, and it just made me stronger in the end.
Serving your country is often a family tradition passed proudly from one generation to the next.
When I was a little girl, my daddy talked to me about when he served in World War II and the Korean War. He didn't say a whole lot about the horrors of it. He had scrapbooks that I looked at, but the stories that he told me filled me with pride.
I come from a long line of veterans, starting with my mother's uncles, and my mother, my father, my uncle was in the Vietnam War. My mother was always trying to remind me that there were opportunities through the military for travel, for education. I came away with feeling a sense of honor, a sense of patriotism.
My father served during World War II. My wife was a Navy nurse during the Vietnam War. I have 2 sons who are currently serving on active duty, both of whom saw duty in Iraq.
Each year at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we honor and show our appreciation for the millions of brave and selfless Americans, living and dead, who have stood for this country in war and peace. Our veterans.
Well, November 11th is just one day, but that one day we should say thank you for a mile away life. Thank you for America.
It is probably one of the things that I'm most proud of in my entire life, having the courage to go over there and fight for my country. I was one of the people that raised my hand and took the oath and said that if people have to go and people have to die, that I'll be one that's willing to do it.
Veterans Day is just not a day off. It's not a holiday from school. It's remembering those who led the way to protect our country so that we have our rights and our freedoms.
I didn't realize what I was fighting for at that age. I was too young. But now that I'm home, see what this country is made of, now I know. It's worth it. I'll do it again.
This year on November the 11th, if you know any veterans, just give them a call. Say thanks. Thanks for safeguarding our lives, our families, and our freedoms. Thanks for everything. Semper Fi, carry on.
My name is Ken Maas, and I was drafted into the United States Army in June of 1971. I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington for 2 years. My job in the Army was as a statistician. I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to get involved in an overseas conflict. Most of the time, during that period of time, we were getting out of Vietnam, so I didn't have to go over there. What Veterans Day means to me, back then, the Vietnam War was a very unpopular war, and the veterans who came out of the service was not looked upon with a lot of respect and honor that they should have been. Now, with the soldiers getting out of Iraq and Afghanistan and other conflicts, they're being honored and respected by the citizens of this country, which I think is terrific. And I think all veterans from whatever war, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, should be honored and respected by the citizens for perhaps making the ultimate sacrifice, for doing the things that other people did not want to do or could do. And it's just something that I know that I gave 2 years of my life to enjoy the freedoms that I enjoy now. And I just think that the veterans should be honored for the service that they've done.
Hi, my name is David Blackwell. I'm married to Susan Blackwell, who some of you may know. And I'm here today to talk to you about Veterans Day and what that means. I grew up in the U.S. Air Force. My father was a fighter pilot. I spent a lot of years moving between places every couple of years, watching my dad fly away, go on deployment, come back. And then after I graduated from high school and attended some college, I went and joined the Navy. I learned an invaluable trade in the Navy. I spent about 20 years in the Navy, again moving every couple of years. But more to that is the pride that I get from being a part of the defense of this country. I spent a lot of years underwater doing things that were ranged from, well, boring to hilarious. But it was all in a good name, and that name was to defend the country. A lot of people nowadays are out there defending our country in very dangerous ways. And I just want everybody to understand the sacrifices that those folks go through. It's a very big honor to have served this nation and our military. And I had a lot of fun doing it at times. There were times where it wasn't quite so much fun. But overall, I think I came out of it with some very valuable skills and a very different outlook on life than a lot of other people have. The sacrifices that people who have served in the military have given to this country are innumerable. The time away, the places you go, the things you see, the things you do, all kind of blend in together to give you a well-rounded view of the world and a view of what we do. It's a privilege to live in this country. And the reason we can all live in this country freely the way we do is because there's people out there willing to put their lives at risk, and in some cases to give their lives to defend the country. So it's with great pride that I'd like you all to join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.